Welcome back to my classroom. It is Monday and today we are talking all about simple station management. I call them stations, you might call them centers, but don't make it harder than it really is. So I thought I'd start this episode off with a little fun. This is a little jingle or rap that I wrote for my kids. I don't know if I call it a rap, I'm not really a rapper, but a little song. My kids are loving this, and just take a listen and see what they do. It's time to do some stations. It's time to have some fun. We're gonna work together. And help everyone. Letters, words, and stories. We're getting super smart. We're all becoming readers. Ready, set, start. I was just, when I start my stations, I just say, okay, you're going here, you're going here, you're going here. And it was fine because they love station time, but their motivation to go do those stations now that we sing this little jingle is awesome. So use that if you want to. Maybe I'll put the lyrics, I'll put it up as a freebie on Teachers Pay Teachers. All the cards that you can print out because I've got a poster that I made to go with it. So look for that on my Teacher Pay Teacher store. So one of the questions that I get asked a lot is how I manage these centers, because you all know that my classroom is a play-based learning environment. And that's a big thing, is I don't focus so much on the curriculum as I do the standards. And I take bits and pieces, I make sure I'm using the language and the terminology from the curriculum so that the first grade teachers have it easier with, and they get it, and the continuum works. But I'm really focusing on the standards that we're supposed to be working on at this time based on our curriculum, and then I'm doing it in a play type form through little games and cards from all my friends on Teachers Pay Teachers and games that I have. And it's working out so well. But managing that is where people are asking me questions, and how I do that, how I run my small groups over here at my table while everybody else is out around the room doing something else. And again, it's one of those things that don't make it harder than it has to be. So I thought I'd walk you through how I set my stations up, what they're doing in those centers, and then kind of how I guide my small groups into learning. So let's take a look at that. All right, so my station groups are all set up with these charts over here. They're not very big pictures. I probably should print bigger ones, but these are my family groups. So I have a yellow group, a orange group, purple, green, and blue groups, and those are all the family groups. Then in there are all the kids' pictures. If they're absent for the day, I just flip their picture around, and that's how they know who is in their family. Then they use those station groups. These colors match the colors that are in my cards from my friend Kim and Deanna from their literacy center pack that you just watched the last episode, you know what I'm talking about. So those are their families, and then these are the cards that tell them where they are for our literacy centers, and these are the cards that tell them where they are for our math centers. And when it comes to managing that gets a little bit trickier in my room. Let me share that with you too. Okay, so managing those centers in my classroom can be tricky from time to time because I don't have a behavior chart. I don't really focus on the negatives of this, I focus on the positives. So I'm constantly shouting out like, hey, I like what you're doing over there, I like what you're doing over here, reminding them what they should be doing in certain, sorry, my focus is off, in certain areas. So the behavior management side of it I use for that. There's also a thing I use in my classroom called Ask 3 Then Me. They know that they do not come interrupt my group at my table unless it's an emergency. They ask people in their own group first, and then they go ask someone else that has done that station before. Somebody asked me one time about the noise level. I don't know, I think it's just showing those expectations at the beginning of the year and getting to understand what's okay and what's not. I don't have to focus on the noise anymore. Yeah, they're loud, but they're 5. They get noisy, but they're 5. They're kids. And it really doesn't interrupt my groups at my table because I've got music going all the time, and they're working around the room, spread out. And that's lucky because I have the space. I know in smaller rooms that might be harder, but in my room that works out well. So I'm going to show you some videos here and pictures of things that we're doing this week to show you how they're working in their families. I'll just let that play while I'm talking. So here you can see they're playing a little basketball game, and this is how we learn how to count by 2s in my classroom. So they're taking turns and shooting baskets, and then they're telling their partner on the floor with the scoreboard how their score is going. So they're counting 2, 4, 6, 8, and keeping track up to 10, and then we bump that up to 20. But they love that. So as you can see there, like there's no reason that I have to manage that. That is self-managed because they're having so much fun. And that's the key to this. Like the more fun you make your centers, then you don't really have to worry about the management side of it. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Make it something that they're going to be engaged with the whole time so that you don't have to worry about whether or not they're doing what they should be or what they shouldn't be. Here's some more looks. These are some stations from Adsit. They're doing winter work, so they're doing a lot of winter CVC words. They're tapping out words. They are doing sequencing and all those different things. And those, again, those little card games and learning through play like that keeps them so engaged that I don't have to focus on what they're doing. And then here's our math centers that we're doing this week from my friend Greg Smedley Warren at the Kindergarten Smorgasboard. They are doing his pack called Granny Turns 100, is all about the 100th day of school. So we're working on the 100th day of school activities because ours is on Thursday. And again, it's play-based because they're using card games and different activities to do these stations, but yet they're learning. So they're ordering numbers, they're counting, skip counting. They are playing a game with cards in the rice table. So I just take my sensory bin table and turn that into a learning game. It's one of those things that as long as they know the expectations, it should be very, very easy to manage. Now, the other question I get all the time is what do they do when they're done? How do they know? So there are two rules in my classroom. If I'm not working with a table or with a group at my table, they know to come see me with their paper, because all the have-tos that I do, there's some kind of paper that goes along with it to show their work. They come see me with that paper. If I am working with a group at my table, we've got a turn-in basket right there. They know to highlight their name on, they stamp next to their name, put it in the basket. That shows me that they're done when I check it later, and then I can go over it with them if there's something that needs to be fixed. They have to do work. There's something to show me accountability in that station. But this is not an assessment. And that's the other thing I think some people focus on is they're wanting to, the station over here and the station over there, to the kids to be doing this on their own, by themselves, but that's not what I'm looking for. This isn't for mastery. This is for practice. It's practice, practice, practice. And that's why my stations look the same so often. It's continuous practice to work towards mastery. But I don't expect them to master this the first time they go there. This is practice, and that's why they're working in that family, because I want them to work with each other. When they're over with me at my table, that's when we're working towards mastery. That's where I'm really, really, grinding down to the mastery of the skill, and that's where we're working on that. So again, the management doesn't have to be hard as long as they're engaged. That's the big thing. I think before you focus on the word management, focus on that word engagement. Engagement should come long before management. Now, the hard part in kindergarten is it does get hard to pull a group over to your table because they're 5, 6 years old and they still need your help. And that all goes back to, I don't really change the game a lot in my centers. I change the content. So like back in my writing center, we are always doing something like write the room or sentence writing or something like that. But the content changes for our theme or our season. So I hope that makes sense, but then they just know what to do. Now, to make sure that they're getting this, because I don't want to just turn them loose and let them go and have them struggle with this, I make sure that on the first day we introduce new stations, like today, we introduce brand new stations, we start in the day. I don't pull small groups, because the whole time they're doing centers, I'm going around station to station to station to station and keeping an eye out on what's going on, helping those if they need help. And I'm stepping into that, like that fourth person or fifth person of their group, because I want that group that's there first to know exactly what to do in that station should the group the next day have a question. Because now that we've done one round of this, they know that it's kind of like dominoes. They fall back on each other. So the group that was at basketball today, if the group tomorrow has a question, they know they don't come to me. They go see the group that was there yesterday by following our station chart. So that's what I'm doing on the first day. I don't pull small groups. And that's why you can see on my center page that we're going to talk about, intro new stations. Now, from the days on after that, that's when I start pulling groups. And I pull groups for many different ways and many different reasons. Sometimes it's to assess, work on mastery of skills, some little games that I might introduce small group and then put into the whole group stations later. But I found something from my friend Kim Adsit at KinderGals.blogspot.com. I kind of made my own based on something she did. I can reach out to her and see if I can find it. Groups should never stay the same. And that's true because they all need different help with different areas and everybody learns in different ways. And you shouldn't have that planned out for the whole week. So like you can see, this is my plan for this week for a group of my students. I know it's kind of hard to see, but you can see that I put intro new stations on Monday. Tomorrow, I've got down what I'm going to work on them with. I'm going to make notes over here, and then I'm going to plan for Wednesday. Based on how they do Wednesday, I'm going to plan it for Thursday. This needs to build on each other. That's where the mastery of these skills comes into play. Out there around the room, they're doing practice. Some people might look at this piece of paper and say, wow, that's a lot of work to replan every single day with those notes. And it is, this whole room is a lot of work. There's a lot going on around this classroom, and it is a lot of work. And I do spend a lot of time working on these students, but that's why we're here. I love my job, and these kids are my own kids. I spend time on them just like I do my kids at home on things that we're working on. Yeah, it's a lot of work. I'm not going to lie to you, and it's going to take work to get this into place. But the reason I called this simple center management is because if you set it up step by step, beginning with the groups, the expectations, the engagement, then the management. Again, keep that engagement factor above the management. If you have them engaged, you're not going to need to manage them very, very often. And then focus on, building practice around the room and building content, and then mastery at your table. It is simple. That's how I run my centers. I hope that helps you. If you have any questions at all about what we were doing in those stations or how this works, please feel free to email me or comment below, but it can work for you, I'm sure. It just takes some setup, it takes some practice, and it takes some work, but it works, and I know my kids are meeting the standards. I know they're having fun. They're learning through play. They're engaged. They are self-managing, and I'm getting a lot of stuff done with little ones at my table to make sure they're meeting their goals. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll talk to you guys soon. We're all becoming readers.
We're all becoming readers.
Ready, set, start.
Ready, set.